Hi everyone, my name is Fedor and you are on the X Founders channel. X Founders is a practice-oriented educational camp in which ambitious founders learn, share experience, and help each other to implement Web3 projects. More information about X Founders in the description. Our guest is Markos, founder of elementalcrypto.com media and industry manager of crypto and gaming at Google. Today, together with Markos, we will talk about crypto research aspects and at Web3 and crypto market. Hey, Markos, nice to meet you here. Thanks for coming.
Hello, nice to be on your channel. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Sure. So I've just exited Google after 12 years. In my latest role, I was what's called an industry manager for gaming and crypto advertisers. This means that I supported large advertisers with their advertising strategy. You can think of it as an internal sales and consulting team in Google that supports the largest customers. And prior to that, I did an MBA, and before that, I was based in India and working in microfinance, so very different industry. The reason I left Google is to focus 100% on my new website called elementalcrypto.com, which breaks down crypto into simple language for people, for beginners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will ask about this. You're doing a great job. Actually, it's great sources, and we will share all links here in the description for elementalcrypto.com. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It means you work at Google and help to attract audience for the huge companies in gaming. Am I right? In terms of your usual work at Google last years.
Yeah. So I can give you a little bit of background. I worked out of the office based in Greece, which means that we covered. We also covered Malta and Cyprus. So Cyprus, a lot of the online trading companies originated there. Like to trade before crypto, right? Pre-crypto days, trade Forex, CFDs, this kind of thing. And on Malta, a lot of the gaming companies started, especially online gambling. Now, these two industries are very similar in the sense that they are very performance oriented. So they go after, they usually have a specific cost that they want to acquire the customer at. And then everything else is optimized around this. So this is called performance marketing, right? So it's less about less focus on branding on TV and YouTube, TikTok, etc., and more focus on acquiring the user when they're lower in the funnel and ready to convert. So that the people, for example, who are searching for how to trade online are much lower hanging fruit for a company to acquire, rather than sending a message to someone, hey, did you know you could trade online? So in this role, we supported customers in three ways. The most basic day-to-day was supporting them with Google Ads, so how they manage their accounts and tactics around that. The second area was to provide them with insights. So we looked at the trends, what the market is doing, competition, etc. And then the third area was customized to each client and looking how they could grow their business, but not only from a marketing perspective, but from a more holistic perspective. So, for example, we would assess the user experience on their site and how smooth that was, or help them provide advice on how they could make their site load faster, because there is a direct correlation between site speed and conversion rates. So yeah, I view this team more as a consulting team
Mm-hmm.
rather than a pure just sales team that's selling Google Ads. You have the latter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but for the larger customers, they like Google gives more love, let's say. Then if you're a smaller tier customer, you'll have the phone support or email support or
Mm-hmm.
chat support. But yeah, for the larger customers, they go the extra mile as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, it's really hard to scale all the time when you find the right funnel or you have the right product, because the price for customer acquisition cost is always growing each year. That's why for the big companies, the big with big budgets, it's absolutely necessary to have this kind of sources of insights and tactics. Yeah. Absolutely.
Very true.
Yeah, and you told me that you are skip Google and you're focusing on elemental crypto right now, 100% of your intention. How this idea was born?
Yeah, so in 2017, I think a lot of people, crypto caught a lot of people's attention as it did mine, right? We had that big spike in Bitcoin reached $20,000. So I was also supporting some customers at the time. Google did allow crypto advertisers, and all of the platforms had fewer restrictions on allowing advertisers to promote crypto. So I did support some customers at the time, and it kind of sparked my curiosity. But more than that, I felt dumb when someone tried to explain it to me. So you have this confluence of something that requires you to understand economics, which is my background. It requires you to conceptually understand programming, which I'm not so good at on the program. I don't have experience in programming. And then it requires you to understand how finance works as well for a lot of the time, and a little bit of politics. So all of these, you need to master all of these dimensions in order to fully grasp what crypto or more broadly blockchains are about. And because I couldn't fully understand, and a lot of people were saying this, right? There were a lot of people who are smart people, and they were saying, okay, but I feel dumb when I try to understand it. It sounds super complex. But and they say the best way to understand something is to teach it. So this is what I started doing. I started writing articles, breaking it down and explaining it. And then along the way, I met people like yourself. I connected with the University of Nicosia. That was one of the first universities to offer a master's degree on blockchains, and co-taught as a guest lecturer in their open course, the free course they had on decentralized finance. So I became more and more involved. I really enjoyed writing. I started gaining traction and decided to leave Google and focus on this full time.
Yeah, yes, so sounds great, like a founder story. I saw the absolutely fantastic mind map in your website. It's a picture about how you, as I think it's about how you try to learn crypto. I mean, what the players, what the connections between this and this. It was really interesting. Can you share a bit more about your approach of studying it? How
Yeah,
you, yeah,
so maybe I can share my screen. I think
yeah,
we should.
sure,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So you haven't allowed me to share, but
Check one again.
all right.
Now it's have to work. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah. This is exactly this.
Okay. So this is what I drew.
Yeah.
Center it. And this was my way of understanding what I need to cover with crypto, and I think it gives a good summary of if you are writing a book on crypto 101, what are the areas that you'd need to cover, right? So I have, if you see here on the top, I have the main themes, and then under those themes, it branches off into subcategories. So if you wanted to talk about crypto, the first thing you would touch upon is Bitcoin and what's the deal with Bitcoin, right? The technology plus the political / economics aspect. Why are people excited about this? I haven't touched upon that yet, actually, because it's so covered. It's the most competitive topic, so I decided to leave it for later. So I decided to start with Ethereum, and Ethereum is more interesting from someone who wants to teach others about crypto, because most people know a thing or two about Bitcoin, or at least they've heard of it. Way fewer people who are not into crypto have heard of Ethereum or understand its significance, and its significance in terms of the history of crypto, right? I'm not promoting Ethereum per se in any particular way, but it was the first one that was inspired by Bitcoin and added some extra features on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go down, if you look at Ethereum, a lot of stuff has been built on it, right? So anything that is Ethereum was the first, and then everyone kind of copies what's been built on Ethereum. But you have a lot of stuff that's been built, and here it's where it gets. You go down the so-called rabbit hole of crypto, right? So Ethereum is a platform, built a bunch of stuff. One big category is decentralized finance. So finance that doesn't have a central intermediary like a bank taking care of things. It's just a platform that exists on its own and can be verified by anyone online. And within that, you have some of the first things that popped up were lending and borrowing, just like a bank would do, but there's no bank. You have DEXs, so decentralized exchanges, and automated market makers. So these are stuff like Uniswap and Balancer and Curve. All these platforms again are exchanges that whose creators set them up in a way so that they can operate on their own without the need for anyone to manage or support the exchange, the transactions between individuals. And then there's a bunch of other topics I won't go into here, mm-hmm. but you can see how you can see all the stuff that's been built on top of Ethereum. Mm-hmm. Then it's not only about finance. I also thought, okay, let me break it up into the non-finance things. And sometimes the non-finance is easier to grasp, like what Helium is doing or VeChain are doing on the supply chain, etc. Then if you move away from the platform side of things, then you have a big section which is NFTs. Okay, what are NFTs? How do they work? What's the big deal around them? About them? And on the NFTs, I include gaming because they kind of enable Web3 gaming. I put stable coins as a separate category because they add they were a big component in enabling in allowing crypto to grow, right? This is the fact that you can have digital dollars that reflect to some extent a real dollar. Then I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about layer ones and layer twos because this is an important way of breaking up tokens and coins in crypto. So people need to be aware what a layer one is, what a layer two is, and how these work together. For example, Ethereum is a layer one, but then Polygon, Arbitrum, etc. are layer twos. You have meme coins, which again I couldn't fit into any other category because they're just a thing of their own, and they're a cultural phenomenon that needs to be described. Okay, some people think they are great, some people criticize them, but if you want to know about crypto, you know what you need to know what they're about. Then there's also a lot of platforms that are for-profit entities that are managed through a central company that is for profit. So you have the exchanges like Coinbase, Binance. You have lending like Nexo, BlockFi, Celsius. Some of these don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking further away from the core components, I have the category of what's called picks and shovels, right? So the example being taken from the California gold rush hundreds of years ago, where okay, not everyone found gold, but the people who were selling the picks to dig with and the shovels were the ones that made money, whether people found gold or not, right? Because these were the tools that people needed. So, what are the tools that people need to interact with to work with crypto nowadays? So you have like the social platforms like crypto Twitter, Discord, Reddit, like these you and I may take for granted. But for myself, when I was just starting out with crypto, I didn't know what Discord was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crypto is what introduced me to Discord. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it also the demographic and the age affect this as well. Then you have oracles and how these feed in, like Chainlink and how these feed into crypto. You have the wallets, online wallets like MetaMask,
Mm-hmm.
Trust, etc. Then offline like Trezor, Ledger, and so on. So I think this, for me, and then you have concepts. So the concepts kind of plug into everything, and the way that I try to introduce concepts in on Elemental Crypto is not to talk about them in the abstract or theory or have a separate article about them, but to insert the concepts within the platforms that I described. So, for example, if I'm talking about Uniswap, there I'll explain, what an automated market maker is, or if I'm explaining Ethereum, there I'll explain what a smart contract is, etc. So, as you read, I thought this was easier because my aim was always to make it simple for people to understand how crypto works. So I always insert the theoretical framework as examples within the platforms.
Yeah, sounds great. And you start structuring your media using this kind of framework. This is like a way of how you learn about crypto, and the articles is also goes from this kind of mind map. Yeah, am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sounds amazing. Yeah, and we all the time try to it's great that you try to help people understand the crypto in simple way. It's because for people it's really hard. It's really hard sometimes. It's really hard to be involved in different activities, for example, in DAO voting or wherever. Inside different projects, and not too many people are really savvy in this case, and Founders is not exception here, and your articles is also help to understand how it's work in simple phrases for founders as well. But one of the most difficult topics here is and this topic is really related to your experience. It's about like marketing stuff and how to attract audience to the startup. Can you maybe share some ideas of how founders they can study the target audience to better understand their needs or their requirements? Because we know that it's not too easy to by different advertising campaigns in big players. Sometimes it's difficult to attract a non-crypto audience to the crypto, to the Web3. Yeah, can you share some ideas about this, how the founders can solve this problem?
So a few thoughts. So at Google, I've always seen the things that have succeeded, right? If they're coming to us, it means they're a large spender. So I've always seen the business model that have succeeded. Okay, but there's still there are a few things in order that you can do to understand your audience. So the first thing is what category do you belong in? Do you belong in? Are you trying to do direct to consumer, where you want to create a product? Because let's face it, a lot of crypto products today are not don't have mass adoption for the features that they offer. They have mass adoption because of speculation on their price, but few of them have okay, this is really useful and I want to use it as an everyday user without understanding much about crypto. So that exists less. But then there's a lot of success stories for enterprise solutions, right? So that seems to be working well. And then it also, if you're on the picks and shovels phase, that could also be more B2B. So it depends on what you're doing. But let's say you're trying to do direct to consumer. There's a few things you could do. The first is, in order to understand your audience, maybe you are the audience yourself. So maybe this idea that you got came from scratching your own itch. It's a problem that you had and you're trying to solve. So from that perspective, for example, I started Elemental Crypto because I couldn't find a good resource that explains things the way I want them to be explained. So I am a good, whenever I'm in doubt about what I'm doing, I can think back to myself 3-4 years ago and think, okay, what would I have liked to have seen at that time? If you don't have that, or in addition to this, you can also create personas. So, you go through this, what they do in traditional marketing when they're trying to sell you Coca-Cola or milk or shampoo or whatever it is. They make a persona, right? They try to make this person and describe them in a lot of detail in order to have an image in their mind of who they're targeting. And this makes them, by making this person as detailed and as real as possible in their minds, in your mind, this can help you. Everything is geared around that, right? The design of your product, the presentation, and the funnel, and everything is geared around you successfully helping this persona achieve simplifying their life by buying your product. You can move away from more theoretical stuff. You can do a UX study, so you can actually pay. If you just do a Google search for this, you'll find loads of companies that will happily. You can type a bunch of questions, and they'll record someone using your product, and they'll ask them the question. So the user, this random person, will come to your site. You'll see in their phone screen recorded, and they'll be trying to do stuff. It will say, "Okay, try to sign up," and you'll see where they're getting stuck. You'll see that they didn't see the button that you thought was obvious, but it isn't as obvious. So you can see all the user experience things and where they're getting stuck. Like with $50, you have some very good answers immediately. Then you can do stuff like, a lot of the products rely on building a community. So you can use this community, the rapport that you have with them, to ask them for their opinion, right? Ask for feedback from users on what they think on the product. So for example, I did this very early on, and immediately I got a couple of pointers on oh, this thing doesn't work. I couldn't figure out that. So it was very easy for me to get an 80-20 perspective. What are the major things I need to fix? You can become more sophisticated if you use analytics tools. Okay, I'm familiar with Google Analytics because of my background, but I'm sure there's a lot more as well. Plus, apart from analytics, which will tell you who your visitors are, what they're doing, how much time they spend, where they land, etc. You also have other platforms that allow you to see what they're doing. So it's like a screen recording of where the user mouse is going, and So when I use this, for example, I saw what I knew and what I'd been told is that when users read an article, they scroll through it. They look at the headings. They don't read it line by line. Even though you've put all this effort to make the article really smooth and easy to read, users don't spend their time reading. They look at headlines. So this I've been told, but it's very different to be told and to actually see it happen in practice. So again, it's very useful to see how users behave on your product. I think those are, yeah, I think those are the main things I would use to understand my audience better.
It's interesting. It's quite it's quite usual like stuff for Web2 marketing things. I mean, nothing's changed. It's you can use the same tools for also for Web3 projects, using customer persona, CGM maps, and different like frameworks around this. But you know, there is also have some differences. For example, community building around your product. It's sounds that it's something new in Web3, and usually and Web2 companies don't use this so much. Usually they have like, you know, some testimonials things in Apple Store, on Google Play Market, and this is like, you know, one way to understand what's going on with your product, what's wrong, what's bugs, and things like that. But now in Web3, everything have a community. Like even like, I don't know, any kind of Web3 projects have like their own community. Community become a huge, powerful tool for growing your product and getting some feedback from your users, even without the product. Even if you don't have a product right now, you already have a community around this, potentially, like about this idea. Can you share, maybe you know some like additional methods, instruments from originally from Web3 that help to go deeply in marketing in Web3, or go deeply to building a community in Web3? Yeah, maybe you heard something, maybe you know, maybe you meet this and cover some articles on your media about this.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't. So I haven't been exposed to it, like you say.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for me, I'm still learning, right? So I don't claim to be an expert in anything yet. I just as I learn, I pass on the knowledge. So I don't have direct experience with building a community.
Mm-hmm.
I have some thoughts on it, but not advice. So, like you say, I see a lot of projects using this as it definitely distinguishes Web3 from Web2, that they build a community, and but you know, sometimes I wonder whether it's necessary if you want to. Like, depends on what your goal is, right? Are you building a community in order to pump the price of a token? Because this seems to be very successful. If that's your aim, community and building a community using influencers, etc., this kind of thing could work well for a while. But if you're building a product that is useful to users, I wonder whether community is a necessary prerequisite. I can see it being. So let's say you have, because a community is like the fans of the product, right? The fans and the core users of the product. So you could have a community of, let's say, MacBooks. Apple was decentralized, and everyone kind of owned a token representing the value of somehow representing you know, the devices that Apple produces. So then you'd have a community of people who would be enthusiastic about it because they'd be giving each other feedback on the product, etc. But a lot of the communities I've come across seem to talk a lot about pumping prices. So
Yeah.
you know, and I can understand that temptation as well. So I'm not sure exactly how you would manage this community to make sure that you the focus is also on the core product and the long term impact of the product.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. It's sometimes even from 2017, I think the community was the source of pump and dump stories. Yeah, and this is, you know, direct incentives for the community and things like that. Yeah, but how do you think, how you see a future of Web3, and maybe you see some like segments that really interesting to watching the next few years. For example, I guess 2 years, 1 year and a half, it was a really huge trend of gaming, Web3 gamify. A lot of money was was funded, a lot of projects in this area and things like that. Yeah, maybe you know, and you see something next. We see a lot of L2 new blockchains, and we see as a lot of different ecosystem. They try to build their own blockchains as well to make this, you know, the loop for the customers, to make a circle of the value. Yeah, maybe you see some different interesting trends that we can see from your sites.
Yeah, look, I still think that it's still early days for crypto. I mean, there was this craze during COVID with a lot of liquidity and a lot of people putting money into things that they didn't understand just because they expected the price to go up. So, and the same thing, at the same time, you had a lot of VC investment in stuff like gaming, etc. But you know, these guys have a long-term perspective, so it doesn't mean that these projects that were set up and that created a buzz and a lot of commotion doesn't mean that they've gone away. I think they're slow, and there's a lot of important companies that are backing these projects. So I think we're just going to see the fruits of their labor over time. It's just that people got really excited and pumped, you know, and just invested in these projects from a from a retail perspective. But obviously, you're not going to see the impact immediately. It's just expectations that, you know, this is like saying, okay, I'm going to build Disneyland and I'm issuing some tickets now. And everyone gets excited. They buy the tickets because they think this Disneyland place is going to be amazing, and I'll be able to sell the ticket at a higher price point later on when someone wants to enter the theme park. So this is the kind of thing that was going on. But the theme park hasn't been built yet, or is being built, but you know, it's just plans up to now. But in contrast to 2017 and the IPOs, which were just a white paper describing some project and, you know, nothing material happening, I think these projects will materialize. So a lot of the gaming projects will materialize. It will be interesting to see how they grow. So I think that is definitely one area. I'm kind of interested to see what NFTs will do. So I think we haven't fully explored the full potential of NFTs. Okay, so far again, we found a new shiny thing that everyone's excited on the superficial aspect of it, but there's more to it than that, right? The fact that you have this thing that can be available digitally, but can be unique as well, and that you can. This is also very interesting in terms of, you know, other applications like privacy or proving ownership of something. So and combined with this identity as well is interesting to me. I'd say also supply chain. I mean, I'm very interested in the DeFi space, but I also think with DeFi, every time there's a new L1, it will just replicate everything that exists in the DeFi world. So how many exchanges can you have? How many lending and borrowing platforms can you have? Okay, probably, you know, probably infinite, and some will dominate and end up being the top 3 or 4. But DeFi is very it was probably the lowest hanging fruit to be developed in the sphere of blockchains, but also it's harder to understand. So it's not like a core main. It's a product that appeals to people who understand finance, okay, who understand money. That's a large proportion of the population. That's a large absolute number of people. Okay, you find them all on crypto Twitter, and they're actively involved. But it's not the day-to-day people you see on
Mm-hmm.
the street. So they don't know what this is about. So DeFi will continue to evolve. It is already big, but it needs to develop, direct-to-consumer products where the consumer says, "I want this," without knowing or caring about the fact that there's a blockchain behind it. But then on the enterprise side of things, on the non-finance side of things, the cases that I've seen are really interesting because you have projects like Helium or VeChain,
Mm-hmm.
where they weren't entirely, like in the case of Helium, they had the thought of building this thing. They didn't know they wanted to build it on a blockchain. They actually tried building it in some other way before the blockchain technology was available. And then, the blockchains fit right into exactly what they wanted to do. So I'm very interested in how these kinds of projects will perform. Or VeChain that allows you to have more transparency in the supply chain. Like, so I read an incredible number. Like what do you think is the biggest mafia, the biggest revenue generating opportunity for the mafia?
Good question. I don't know.
So the answer apparently is that it's counterfeit goods, and this is like something like 600 billion,
Okay.
600 billion market. So it's massive. The bags that you see on the street, the fake
Mm-hmm.
Louis Vuitton, this kind of thing, that's a massive market for the mafia. But it also goes to see that they show that it's hard to trace and track and to prove that something is original. So I'm not promoting VeChain, but it's just one of the projects I
Mm-hmm.
wrote about that they focus on this aspect of promoting transparency because once everything's on the blockchain, it's kind of hard to cheat. If everyone
Yeah.
is saying this is the truth, it's hard to say no, actually this is the truth. So I find these projects are interesting, and then you have the infrastructure stuff, like you say, L2s. There's a lot of excitement about them right now because they're being deployed and developing more and more and being used more and more, and then bridges as well. So these things that will allow the different ecosystems to speak to each other is
Mm-hmm.
also has a lot of potential, I think.
Yeah, yeah, sounds interesting. And I was thinking about how do you think could a new Web3 Google emerge in the near future, or the company with the size of like compared with Google in Web3?
Yeah, so I think they would. I mean, they're definitely taking. They're definitely noticing it, right? So. Uh, um, on the cloud side of things, I see more and more projects starting to use Google Cloud. Up to now, it's been
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. But how can you be decentralized if your cloud infrastructure is centralized with one player? So I expect uh, people to start going to Google to diversify a little bit as well. So I'm sure Google is looking at this aspect as well on the cloud side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then as people demand and want more services to be available and more information to be available to them, I'm sure that Google is looking at this aspect. I'm not privy to it, so I'm not exposed to exactly what the company is thinking about, but I know they are thinking about it. So Google's mission is to organize the world's information. So crypto is information.
Yeah.
So I can imagine them, having a role here as well, or facilitating the showing this information at some point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, do you see any indications of a bull market in Web3? Do you see some like changes here? Maybe crypto winter is over. How do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I am not a finance person, so but I don't think anyone is. I don't think anyone can predict the future. From from the people that I follow and respect as being more knowledgeable about the market, I see are a lot of expectation that we're not out of the that we'll experience a small bull market, bull trap. But I mean, crypto follows what's happening in the mainstream markets, right? There's a strong correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P, for example. So right now the S&P is pumping, but it's increasing due to the 4 or 5 major players there, right? And there's this narrative playing, this narrative of AI, right?
Yeah.
Google, Microsoft, Apple, all of them. So but the rest of the companies, the stock of the rest of the companies on the longer tail is not increasing. So, okay, you have a nice narrative, but then when you have serious macro stuff happening that don't paint a nice picture, and there is an expectation that that economies around the world in US, Europe, etc., will go through a recession. So if this happens, I don't think that we've seen that crypto is seen as a risk-on asset, so people are not willing to take risks during a recession. So I actually personally expect that there will be we will go down before we start picking up again. This is my expectation.
Yeah, yeah, I talking with a lot of founders, and they actually living right now with ideas that the bull market is coming really soon, and they try to to build right now, to build in their crypto winter to be well prepared for the bull run, the next bull run, and yeah. The whole market is waiting for these things, and it's interesting that everything is changed. I mean, the requirements is going high for founders, for projects, and it's I'm not sure that it's possible to fundraise just with a white paper right now, just with one idea. It's interesting. It means like the market is developing, and it's become more similar with the Web2 market. Hopefully, I think everybody waiting and everybody working to to help Web3 market be as the same as Web2. With the different tools and predictions and things like that. Yeah, and finally, can you give some advice for early stage founders who start their path in Web3 in this modern condition?
Yeah, so I guess a lot has to do with yeah. So what advice could I do beyond the obvious? So the first thing is to make sure that you choose something that make sure you choose the right product, right? So choose something that's solving someone's pain when you're building. Don't ask yourself whether you really need a blockchain. I think past couple of years, there's a lot of projects where was it absolutely necessary that they use a blockchain? Not very clear. Are they building something to pump its price, which is a very different strategy to building something that will be useful and futuristic? So I think that would be a starting point. But I guess most founders are the product builders, the product makers. So then my advice to them would be to think about, you're never going to build, well, very few companies will build a product that is, people are going to see, wow, this is amazing, I want it. And it just spreads virally and everyone wants it. You need to promote it as well. So think about who you're going to hire to do your marketing, and consider how you're going to do how your product lends itself to marketing. You have to think about the full funnel. So there's people who don't know about it, and there's people who are lower in the funnel who want a solution, like they really need to solve the problem. And if you present your product to them, it will be the perfect fit. You need to think about these two stages and how you present your product. On those who have no awareness, you need to be creative. What is it that you could do to catch people's attention at the cheapest cost, right? At the most efficiency possible. And then for the people who are already have the problem and they're looking for a solution, again, consider that how you will be available to them when they to present your offering. So you really need to have someone on your team that understands this. It's not you're not going to be able to do it just by having a product.
Yeah. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your advice. It was Markos. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I was happy to talk with you.
Yeah, it was a great chat. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.